My name is Jeff Mays and I'm the president of Sportsbar TV Systems. I'm here today to show you how to receive, test out, and install your system from us. You will be receiving something that will resemble basically what you see on the table here, the main unit and the touch panel. What I'd like you to do, first off, is verify no dings, no dents, nothing has happened in shipment that's obvious. If it has, we have to know immediately, and we have to have the packing that it came in to show UPS or the shipper that they damaged the unit. We must have that to get a claim, or we will have to charge you for the damage. So you must follow through so that we can claim the damage. Now once you verify the unit looks pretty good, we don't have dings and dents, here's the back side. What we want to do before you go to install anything, before you go to your rack, we want to plug this in, we want to run it through a dry run. We want to make sure the basics are happening before you do anything on your own. So the easiest way to do that, and let me explain a couple of the components too before we start to go too far. We have the Crestron control unit on the bottom. This is sort of the brains. In the middle, we have what we call the redundant power supply system. This will actually power everything in the rack, but each item also has its own individual power supply. So if either power supply dies, either the redundant one or the primary one, your unit's still going to work because there's two power supplies powering everything in the rack. The third unit is the matrix switch itself, which is a Cat5 based matrix switch in this case. And then we have up here the converters that convert your high definition HDMI to the Cat5, and then it runs into the switch. And likewise, the outputs here, which are marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., will go out to your TVs, which will have an adjoining converter and convert it back to HDMI so that you will see your picture. Now we also have this roll of what we call flashers. These are infrared emitters. These will stick onto the source devices, DirecTV, cable boxes, DVD. They will control the infrared as if it were a remote control. We call them flashers because they actually flash red. We buy the ones that are visible so that for troubleshooting purposes, you can see them flash. You'll know that the system is putting out information when you see them flash visually. Okay. The last piece is what we call the updater. This is a very small computer. And what this does is it allows us to monitor the unit remotely if anything's going wrong, dial into the unit and make configuration changes, and generally do diagnostics remotely because of this unit. Now, to do the initial testing, this touchscreen, which also comes with an HDMI receiver so that we can have picture-in-picture monitor, and it comes pre-wired to a network jack, which is for the control. And we give you this little jumper for testing purposes. So this will also plug into where we have marked touch panel, and this will connect the touchscreen to the main unit. You'll run two Cat5s to the touchscreen when you're finished. The second one will go to the HDMI receiver and to the switch, and it'll act just like a regular TV when it's doing its monitoring. So one Cat5 is control and the power, and the other one is the video monitor. For right now, we're just going to worry about control for our dry run. Also, normally we would have 3 power cords. We have one on the Crestron, one in the switch, and then lastly, one in the redundant power supply. Like I said, there are 2 power supplies for everything. But in order to test the unit, we don't have to plug everything in at once. We can just plug the redundant power supply in, and he'll take care of everything else for this dry run. Everything working correctly, we should see a touchscreen right away. We should also see on the front, the Crestron is now lighting up. And eventually comes in and says system normal. Okay. Several other pretty lights up front, basically, which are for diagnostic purposes. If we have you on the phone someday, we may ask if a certain light is lit, but other than that, they're basically just pretty. Okay, we should also have lights on every converter. We should have a green light on the updater. And we'll notice, I will point out this one red light right here on the switch. It's called the RPS light. It's the redundant power supply. It is red because the switch is not plugged in. Both power supplies are not operating. So when you do plug in the switch with the separate cord, you'll notice this light turns green. That means everything's good. Okay, the basic check of the touchscreen. We're going to hit source, and in a few moments it should populate. Your install is going to differ. We're going to try to have a basic load-in that you have given us how many sources and what they are. So that might mean you only have 4 DirecTVs and a couple cable boxes and a DVD, and it will be reflected according to your install. Then when we hit a source like source 1, you'll notice that all of these have lit up with the bright orange white. That means everything's selected to TV 1 right now. All your TVs are selected to source 1. We ship that way for testing purposes. In our next stage of hookup and tests, we recommend you just hook to source 1 with with any working video. And then as you hook up your TVs, they should all display source 1 as you're hooking them up. We don't want to do any more playing around than that while you're hooking up. We want to make sure all your TVs can be displaying source 1 at the same time before proceeding to do anything with the matrix switcher. Another thing you might do, just so you notice, now these two will be marked 1 through whatever number you have, and generally we ship 14 even if you don't have 14 devices. That way you'll have extra down the road should you want to add something. I believe I see 01 here. Yeah, that's 01. So this would be for source 1. This would hook to the DirecTV 1, for instance. You will plug the video of DirecTV 1 back here into the source converter marked 1. You would put this IR flasher over top of the infrared receiver on that same DirecTV 1. Now that we've done our basic tests, we know we're basically functioning, we know there's no damage, we're going to go ahead and turn it back off and take it to your rack and show you how to put it in your rack without having to take it apart. It's very important. We give it to you as one assembly. We really appreciate if you leave it as one assembly. Not only will it be easier for you to install this, we will know exactly how everything's hooked up if we have to troubleshoot with you on the phone later. So, I'm going to go ahead and unplug it. I'm going to unplug the little jumper to the touchscreen. And keep in mind that these do plug in very easily once you get your touchscreen to the final location. If you're having trouble with it, pick it up, take it to your rack, use a short jumper, and troubleshoot it that way. See if it works at the rack. If it works at the rack and not at your remote location, chances are it's the cable you just ran. So, now that we've done that, I'm going to pick this up, take it over to a rack. And what I've done ahead of time, which I'll explain, you put a piece of equipment in first, or we take a rack shelf and put it in upside down. So whether it be a piece of equipment that's going to be mounted below it, or something like a rack shelf, it gives you a place to lay the system into the rack as one piece and slide it in down to the wooden rails that we've given you. Now that we have it slid up against the rack, we're going to remove the wood rails with your favorite screw gun or screwdriver. and slide the rest back in. And now we're sitting in your rack in one piece. We didn't have to take a single wire off. We've got it tested. You can put your screws in, and we'll proceed to basic installation.